Ladies and gentlemen, I'm going to go over the population decline in America. And trust me, it is way worse than anything you ever heard before. When I get finished telling you this, you will fully understand why Joe Biden and the Democrats, and really the Republicans too, want these people in the country. You will have a full understanding. You know, they are fully aware of it because you can see it in their actions. When these illegals do things, they don't want to do nothing to them. When they commit crimes, they don't want to lock them up. Even when they get harmed by these people, they don't want to do anything. And we heard about what they're doing in New York, and they said they're still doing it. They're leaving their defecation and their urine on the stoops of them folks. Okay. And nothing is being done about the immigrants. Listen to me now. Reality, actually, it's way before then. You're going to see how much they have withheld this. They are fully aware of how bad the population decline is in the white community. They know how bad it is. They don't want us to know how bad it is. But today, y'all, you're going to know because I'm going to be the one to tell you. How you doing, Kid Gravity? How you doing? All right. So, y'all, grab your favorite drink, grab your popcorn. You know, if you're in a chair, grab your ottoman, prop them legs up, and y'all relax because you're going to go on a bumpy behind ride. So, get as comfortable as you can right now. Okay. And it's not just bad here. I'm going to tell you how bad it is in Latin America. Remember how they psychologically kept telling us, oh, well, they have all these babies and they're going to outnumber you. No, they're not. Wait until you hear how bad the birth rate is in Latin America, y'all. You ain't seen nothing yet, but I'm about to put them on Front Street too. Okay? America's birth rate is bad. Latin America's birth rate is worse than America's birth rate. Y'all listen to me now. It's worse. So let's get to it, y'all. Let's get to it. So let me show you Latin America first. I'm going to go ahead and share my screen and we're going to talk about it. Plunging fertility rates are creating problems for Latin America. Y'all, it is so bad in Latin America. Latin America's aging population is huge, and the young population is very small. Okay. We have been told a lot of lies when it comes down to Latin America. For many years, I thought, oh, they're having all these babies. Even if you pull up Mexico, y'all, Mexico got low birth rate. And so does all of Latin America. So let's get to it. So there's a part in here I want y'all to see. So Latin America fertility rates fell below 2.1. Now, you remember um remember your scientists say once you fall below 2.1, it is hard to maintain the population. Latin America fell below 2.1 in 2016. 2016 is when they fell below 2.1. In fact, Latin America is the fastest falling fertility rate in the world. Y'all hear me? Latin America got the fastest falling fertility rate in the entire world. That's how fast it's declining in Latin America. But I would hear them talk and say they have way more babies than black people. They gonna outnumber black because they have way. You see what the lies these people tell? Do you see the lies, y'all? You know what they're doing? They're trying to play this psychological warfare on the black community. The fastest falling fertility rate in the world is happening in Latin America. Their fertility rate, ladies and gentlemen, is lower than the US fertility rate. Theirs is at 1.59. That is way below 2.1. So at this point, that's why they're leaving. Their economies are falling apart because they don't have the same population in Latin America. That's why they're leaving their countries. Their economies are never going to be good because they don't have a big population no more. Do you see what's happening? They can't maintain those economies anymore. So rather than sit there, those folks are more than happy to get up and cross the border into America. Right now, the older population in Latin America is huge. The young is way smaller. In fact, they're so desperate to save their economies, they raised the retirement age all across Latin America. The whole continent raised their retirement age because they don't have the young people to replace all of these older workers in Latin America. They don't have it. So, the biggest reason why many of them are crossing the border is over economic issues. It's all about economics. They no longer have the population to maintain those societies all across Latin America. That's what's happening. They are facing so many problems. And remember, slavery happened in Latin America. And to this very day, they treat their Black population terribly. Okay. All right. Now, stay with me on this one. I'm going to show you a chart. It's so bad in the US. And that's another thing. And you'll understand why they want these people coming across the border, because it's in the article that I'm going to hold on. I this map you got to see. Okay. This map is from 2010 to 2020. Where you see all of the red and pink, these are the counties that took the most dramatic shifts across the country, population shifts, where whites are no longer the majority in in any of these counties that you see in red and pink. They are not the majority. Look at this map. Look at the map. This map is showing you they already know they are falling fast in America. This came out from the U.S. Census Bureau. The U.S. Census put this map out to show you how big the population is shifting to non-white in America. That's the majority of the country. Look at it. It's the majority of the country. And among the school children, it's already changed. The white children are already in the minority. They're already there. So I want you to say, they call this map Red Dawn. Look at what they call, what was Red Dawn? Think about the movie. What was Red Dawn? That's what they call this map, Red Dawn. So let's get into it. I'm going to keep this map up because I want y'all to really see what's going down in America. So let me read this part of the article because it is the most important. Between 2010 and 2020, the number of people in the country grew by 7.4%. Y'all, that is bad. You know why? Your country should be growing in double digits. The country only grew 7.4%. Listen, this was the slowest growth since the Great Depression, when the population grew 7.3%. So in 10 years, America only grew 7.4%. And that was the same around the time of the Great Depression, when they grew 7.3%. In the 1990s, the growth rate was 13%. Now, listen to that. That's how it should be, double digits. So, the growth of the population was 13% in 1990. So, the main culprit is falling birth rates, especially in the white population. The fertility rate, a measure of how many children a typical woman will have in her lifetime, was steady or rising for 30 years. So they said from the mid 70s, it was rising. Then when it hit 2008, the US fell below 2.1. America fell below 2.1 in 2008. America's is way down to 1.67. Y'all, that is a terrible birth rate. Listen to me now. That is a terrible birth rate. 1.67 is terrible. That's well below 2.1, where your scientists say you need to maintain a stable population. America is way below that, way below. All right, so let me go on because it gets even more interesting, y'all. It gets even more interesting. If it remains below 2.1, listen real good. Only immigration can keep the population growing in the long run. So, in other words, let as many immigrants over as possible because that's the only way we can keep the population up in America. See, the only way America could turn this around, y'all, if the majority of the young people in the country have babies. If it's not the majority, then there's no way America can maintain its population on its own. America made the fatal mistake of making their economy all about capital. They have nothing to fall back on now. So they are letting these people across the border out of desperation to save America. Because if you don't have the population, you don't have the revenue, and you will not be able to maintain the country. This is why they're bringing them over here. They're not having enough babies. And each year, the population is taking a steep fall. So letting the immigrants come in is somewhat stabilizing the country, but it's kind of like a false positive. You know what I mean? Because if your Latin Americans are not having babies, which it shows, they are not having babies in these Latin American countries. So when they get here, they're not going to have that many babies because they're not having them in their own countries, which means they have to keep a stream of them coming in over and over and over and over in order to maintain the country in America. These Latin Americans are not running across here with a boatload of children. If you look at a lot of the pictures, most of the adults don't even have children with them. Start looking a little closer at the pictures. Yes, you'll see children, but you won't see an abundance of children coming with them. The vast majority of them coming don't have children with them at all. Start looking at the pictures. It's really going to tell the story. So they have to keep the floodgates open to let any and everybody in here in order to maintain America. Even the Chinese people coming in, they're mostly males and they don't have children with them. Just start looking at the photos a little more. You don't see this big profila of children coming across the border. You see mostly adults. There's a reason for that. They are not having babies. All right, so let me go on because there's more. So they are using immigration too, because it has been falling since the 1990s. So immigration is even falling, y'all. Yes, there's people coming across, but they're saying this is far less than what it was before. So the pandemic, so let's get to the pandemic. They were really, really hoping that because everybody was closed up together, that there would be a baby boom in America from the lockdown. So let me tell y'all what happened that you never heard before. The pandemic almost stopped the population growth in America altogether. In 2020, when we were locked down, over 500,000 people lost their lives during the lockdown. Over 500,000 people lost their lives during the lockdown. And y'all might remember they were on this Black people are getting it more than anyone else. Black people, remember they were talking about that? Black people are getting it more than anyone else. No, actually, it was them. Do you know, and many of you might remember, I did a live stream showing the obituaries, and it was overwhelmingly them folks in the obituary, and I knew what they lost their lives over. They lost their lives because they told you right there in the obituary what they died of. They told you. So I didn't have to guess, it was there. Do y'all know when I was done with that live stream, they immediately demonetized me? They immediately demonetized that live stream where I showed you the actual obituaries of the ones that died during the pandemic. They demonetized that baby. Yes, they did. Yes, they did. And it was barely a handful of our people in the obituary. And the reason why I did that live stream is because I was consistently seeing that in the papers. Because I was like, they keep saying we're the ones overwhelmingly, losing our lives during the pandemic. But when I went to the newspapers, all of the local newspapers around me, we weren't hardly in there. I knew something was wrong. We were hardly in the obituaries, but them folks, they were in there by the hundreds, if not by the thousands. The obituary, y'all, I never seen the obituary that long before in my entire life. The obituary in the local paper was like 8, 9 pages. 8, 9 pages. And we were barely a handful in the whole thing. And then I went to the Boston Globe. That's the one that I showed on live stream. That thing had, I think, like 30 pages. And out of those pages, we were sprinkled in, and them folks were overwhelmingly all over it. And some of y'all were there because, many of you have been with me for a long time. And you were there and you saw it along with me. I showed it. And man, they couldn't wait to demonetize my button. They sure did. They sure did. Woo, yes, they did. All right. So let me go on because there's definitely more. So the pandemic almost stopped the population growth altogether. In 2020, over 500,000 died. Okay. And they said that far outnumbered 2019. And not only did you have the over 500,000 lose their life in 2020, and that right there tells you it was far worse than what they told us. Instead of telling us the truth, they went on this tirade about Black people died from it the most. But as you can see, that absolutely was not the case. So, along with the over 500,000 that died, even the birth rate dropped dramatically in 2020. Now, why was it such a dramatic drop? Because in 2020, when we were locked down, the borders were closed. So they didn't have the immigrants to come in and pad up the population numbers. They didn't have that in 2020, y'all. So the borders were closed, the American diplomatic outposts were closed. Net immigration took a dramatic drop. That's why the population drop was so bad in 2020. Hardly no births, more deaths, and no immigrants coming in. America's population took a terrible toll. Now you know why these people jumped in vehicles and went up to all these different capitals brandishing guns and demanding the country open back up. You know why they did it? Because they knew the truth. We just didn't know the truth. They knew the truth. We didn't. We didn't. So, in the 2021 Census Bureau estimated that the population expanded only 0.2%. That is horrible. That is horrible. Your population should be expanding in double digits every single year. America expanded only 0.2%. Listen, the lowest showing population growth in the country's history. The lowest population growth in the country's history. They had more children during chattel slavery than they did in 2021. Pretty bad. So they said in the past year or so, according to the estimates published in this past January, immigration increased largely due to people crossing the border. The population only increased, not because of babies in America being born, but because of the people crossing the border. That is the only thing right now, y'all. Now, that is some real true judgment. That's the only thing increasing America's population is illegals coming across the border. That's why they're not doing anything to these people when they're committing all these heinous crimes. They are in desperation mode right now. They are very desperate, y'all. They are desperate. They're trying to hang on to this country by any means necessary. If it means ignoring the crimes committed by illegals, they are more than happy to do so. That's the only thing saving America. That's it. Donna, Sheriff, thank you so much. Yes, Sister Lisa, I do part time cosmetics, local funeral homes, and I did see more of them than my people All praises to the Most High Yah. Yes, yes. And like I said, the obituary really told the story, y'all. If you did not look at the obituary, you need to go back to the 2020s and look. It was too apparent who was leaving this planet, and it was not overwhelmingly us. It wasn't. Now I understand why they went out there trying to convince people that it was us. They were trying to make sure they kept the spotlight off of how many were dying in their groups. That's absolutely what they were doing. And they scapegoated us in order to do it. That's what they did. That's what they did. They scapegoated us to hide what was really happening to them. Well, yeah, the police shootings have a lot to do with the population shift too. They don't want see if they go down, they want to take us down with them. It will all make sense now. The police shootings where they're trying to drive down our population out of desperation, and the immigrants coming in because they're sure not having any babies and they're trying to keep the population up. It's all done out of desperation. All out of desperation. Okay. So, according to the Brookings Institute, a think tank in Washington, D.C., the population, and this is only if they let immigrants come in on a steady stream, will grow by 4%, but it can only grow by 4% if they continue to leave the borders open. It won't happen any other way. America, they said, technically would still show a slower growth in the coming decades. They're talking about among American citizens than any decade in its history. Populations are the lowest in many of the richest countries. Who are the richest countries? The Western nations. The Western nations. Every single one have the slowest and fastest shrinking population. Now, why do you think that, y'all? Looks like judgment to me. Looks like judgment to me. These are supposed to be rich, civilized countries. Remember, they always say they're the civilized ones? Well, the civilized ones are having the biggest population drop. And they're supposed to be the richest nations in the world, and they're doing the poorest when it comes down to population. So it's not just here. China is also another country struggling hard for its fertility rate. China, their children per woman is only 1.15 per woman in China. That's it. And they done killed off most of their females. So there's no way they're going to be able to turn anything around. That's why you see their men running over there to Africa and marrying up the African women. That's why they're doing it. They know they messed everything up through. See, theirs was not messed up because they didn't have the ability to have children. They got messed up through political policies. That's what messed up their population. And that went on for over 40 years. How do you walk it back? You can't. You can't fix that now. Whoever their leaders were 40 years ago that put those policies in place, they're the ones responsible for their population not growing now. And then Russia, Their population has been shrinking since 1991. That's a long time. So they're having a bunch of demographic problems over there as well. Now, America is worried that they won't be able to adapt to the slow growth that's going on. And there is a big fear. And it's not just them. America, it's Britain, it's France, okay? It's a lot of the European countries that are now in fear of economic collapse because they won't have the population to maintain their countries. They won't have it. Wow. You know, I knew the fertility rate was bad in America, but man, 1.67. Woo! America. America, America, you are looking bad. So the death spiral is worse in America because of the remarkable level to which the government is decentralized. Just 8% on primary and secondary education comes from the federal government, for example, and less than a quarter of the spending on law enforcement. Local and regional authorities levy 48% of all taxes collected in America compared to 20% in France and 60%. And this is to maintain things, y'all. And the tax revenues are shrinking because the population is shrinking. That's why they want these illegals to come in here and become taxpayers, because right now the tax revenue levels in America are shrinking. And this is why everything is sky high. You notice how unconcerned Joe Biden is with the inflation. It's because the population is shrinking and the revenue is shrinking in America. Like I said, they are desperate and they don't care if they got to hike the houses up to $1 million and make a loaf of bread $5. They don't care. They're in desperation mode right now. They're desperate and they're willing to keep this place going by any means necessary at this point. They're not going to do anything. Just listen to me now. I know a lot of people are hurting financially. They are not going to change the inflation situation. It may go down a tad, but you can best believe, y'all, it's going back up. It's going back up. It may temporarily go down because the people are screaming and hollering. But after you get finished screaming and hollering, weeks or a month or two later, that mess is going back up. They can't afford to take the prices all the way down. And even if you put Trump in office, do you realize it's going to take a while for anything to go down? That's if it goes down. That's if. Even that's not guaranteed, even if he gets in there. And this is also why you're going to see a lot of these illegals taking jobs from America because it's all about saving the country. They no longer care about the American people. They are looking at the capital. And if the capital is shrinking, they don't care what they got to do. So if you're sitting here without a job, they don't care. They will keep these immigrants working because they'll work for practically nothing. Oh, you're going to see a lot more Tysons happen. A lot more. Mike C, thank you for the super chat. I remember the obituary story you did about California. These folks will definitely get double. Oh, yeah. All praises to the Most High Yah. You got that right, Mike. And Dina, Yah, thank you for the super sticker. Thank you very much. Okay. So, I mean, this is deep. This is probably the deepest I've ever seen them talk about this. They have never talked about this like they are now, but I guess they feel they don't have anything to lose. And it's expensive to maintain America. It's very expensive. That's another thing on why they need to pile all these people in here. And just remember, they're not producing either. So you got a country full of them folks not reproducing, and you got these migrants coming in here, these illegals coming in here, and they're not producing either. Okay. So they're also saying over the last 10 years public services are also deteriorating in America. Public service is shrinking because people are leaving. People are leaving. And people are trying to shift away from these states where the taxes are high. And that's another dramatic shift going on in the country. So the map that you see Illinois circled. I'm going to tell you why you see that circled. Let me just go back up. Now, back in the 19th century, they created a town called Cairo, Illinois. And it was a small town in the 19th century, but it was a pretty big spot for trading. And it was a big spot for trading because it was on the Mississippi and Ohio rivers. So the area was called Little Egypt. Listen to the names: Cairo, Egypt. So the area was called Little Egypt. And it was a lot of farming going on back then. So it was booming for a while. It was booming and taking off. That area was really the place to be at one point in time. Once downtown, they said, was very nice. It was beautiful. They said it's all abandoned now. Cairo is practically all abandoned. They have no gas stations, no pharmacies, no hospitals. They used to have 6 schools. They only have 2, and the 2 they have are only half full. In the 1970s, there were 2 grocery stores in Cairo. There were gas stations. A lot of businesses were there. The city had a Victorian style library, and they said it was a place that you never saw bare shelves, never, in their supermarkets. Cairo is practically a ghost town now. Cairo went from a population, they said they had well over 15,000 people in the 1920s. Today, Cairo has 1,700 people. The place is practically a ghost town. They took such a major population hit. They are now demolishing the empty homes around Cairo. It just goes to show you how bad. This is just one of many examples of shrinking towns in America. And they said Cairo literally became the fastest shrinking place in America. only 1,700 people, and they have started to demolish the public housing and the residential homes there because they are so badly dilapidated. Mm. So y'all, it's just showing you how bad the demographics have changed in this country. If America was really truly blessed, would this be happening? Would it be happening if this place was really truly blessed? No, it wouldn't. Derek Johnson, thank you for the super chat. Thanks for your video and platform. Thank you. Thank you for being a subscriber. Yes. Yes. So now you know, because we were questioning, many of you were too. How are all these illegals creating crimes and they're barely getting put in jail? Now you know why. It's out of desperation, is the reason why they don't want to jail them. They want to use them to help increase the population. Why are they giving them all this money and they're paying for hotel rooms, they're paying for apartments, they're putting them in houses now in Chicago. It's all being done out of desperation. These people are desperate to keep America going. They're desperate to keep the economy going. They can't grow the economy if you got to depend on them folks to have babies. The economy is never going to grow. So the only way they can come up with, out of their minds, out of their rapid minds, is we just got to let them just keep running through that border. We just got to keep letting them do it, because if we don't let them do it, then we're screwed. That's where they are at in America now. Now you know. Trust me, they've known this all along. We just didn't know. But you certainly know now, don't you? So, ladies and gentlemen, I'm not going to keep you any longer. I just wanted to go over this because it is very significant. And now you will understand. You will understand. The Gentiles are very desperate to stay in power. And at this point, they don't care what they have to do to keep power. So even if they got to screw over American citizens, that's exactly what they're going to do. How you doing, Lions Den? I haven't seen you in a while. I hope you're doing well. Yeah. So y'all, you're going to be a lot more job loss, and they don't care. They don't care. At this point, they don't even care if they got to screw their own over. They don't care. It's about maintaining power. So please be on the lookout for my videos. If you didn't get a chance to see them, I did another one on Leonel Moreno. He's still jailed. They did a jail interview with him, and I just did the video of him. He's desperate to get out, and they're not letting him out, of course, at least for now. So, they're in desperation mode. And I did another one on TikTok. If you've been following me, you know that they just passed the bill in the House to ban TikTok. And it just got to go through the Senate. More than likely, it will be going through the Senate real soon, because it's attached to an AIDS package for Israel and Ukraine and Taiwan. So probably over the next coming days, once they pass it, TikTok probably got about a year before it's gone. If nobody buys it, then take it over, then it's gone. Yeah, I've done a couple of videos, Gregory Calloway, on the squatting. I've done a couple of videos on that. on these illegal squatting in homes? Yes. Mhm. Yeah, they are. That's why you're seeing them crying all over videos now a lot more than you ever have before. Mike C, thank you for the super sticker. You know, there's a reason why you keep seeing them crying or they look depressed on these videos. Now you know why. They're losing and they know they're losing. They know it. So y'all, um, be on the lookout. And there is another topic that I'm looking at that I might do a live stream on tomorrow. So just stay tuned, y'all, for the things that will be coming out. Shalom, family.